Hello everyone, and welcome back to Toon Tales. Today, we're about to dive into the wacky and wild world of solar opposites and cover the show from beginning to end in detail. This sci-fi comedy follows the adventures of a group of extraterrestrial beings and their planet-destroying pet. As they work on fixing their spaceship and prepare for an unavoidable catastrophe, they must also learn to adjust to life on Earth. Scraped from the demented brain of Rick and Morty creator, there are high expectations to meet. Get ready to blast off into a world of intergalactic hilarity as we follow the adventures of Korvo, Terry, Yumyulack, and Jesse, a family of aliens who find themselves stranded on Earth. If you're a fan of Rick and Morty, you should know that its creator, Justin Roiland, has released his second animated series called Solar Opposites. Just like how The Simpsons had Futurama and Family Guy had American Dad, it's common for cartoonists to try their hand at another series after a successful first hit. And of course, there's a second series from the creators of Rick and Morty that, although never explicitly stated, could coexist in the universe of the main series. The series, originally created by Fox, premiered on March 8, 2020, on Hulu's streaming service. Here we'll see the adventures of Korvo and Terry, accompanied by their children Yumyulack and Jesse. They are aliens from the planet Schlorp, a perfect utopia that exploded a year ago, and in order to preserve their culture, they sent 100 ships with 2 adults and 2 replicants on each one to search for planets they could inhabit. Although they are grouped in the typical Earth family structure, with 2 guardians and 2 children, the Schlorp actually do not have a gender, or at least we know that they choose their gender upon arriving on Earth, but it does not seem necessary on their planet. Furthermore, their entire organism is different from ours, since they do not descend from mammals like us, but rather from plants. Despite these differences, we know that they can taste the soil and regenerate, and when they get nervous or stressed, they release some strange drops. The idea of the 100 ships is to find uninhabited planets that they can reconstruct to be similar to their original planet using the pupa, which is a character equivalent to a pet, but more sinister. However, far from arriving at an uninhabited planet, they arrived on Earth, a large and overpopulated planet. They have been stranded there for a year, since they cannot make their spaceship work, and they have not yet decided whether it is a good place to live or not. But since they have no other choice, they adapt to the capitalist democratic lifestyle in the United States, the Solars. Let's meet the eclectic family. First, we have Korvo, who is something of an authoritarian father figure and a genius in the style of Rick Sanchez. He is focused on repairing the spaceship to resume their main mission. But at times he reveals his fondness for our culture, such as his interest in magic. While the Schlorpian race was preparing to depart from Schlorp, they assigned Terry to be his partner. When Korvo and Terry crash-landed on Earth, they unwittingly signed up for the most challenging gig of their lives, parenting. As they settled into their new home, their relationship quickly morphed into something akin to a bickering old couple, with Korvo playing the role of the nagging spouse, and Terry the lazy partner who couldn't get enough of Earth's charms. So Terry, who is somewhat childish and irresponsible, plays a more maternal role as he is in charge of taking care of the pupa, their adorable but sinister pseudo-pet. It is a slug-like creature that contains all the information and history of the planet Schlorp within its DNA. When it reaches maturity, it will grow in size to consume the entire planet, terraforming it into a new planet, Schlorp. Terry was recognized as a pupa expert despite cheating in most of his classes. That's why he actually does a terrible job. Terry, the easygoing, open-minded, and affable alien, stands in stark contrast to his introverted partner Korvo. While Korvo is hesitant and cautious about their arrival on Earth, Terry embraces the planet with a sunny optimism that's infectious. Among the children, we have Jesse, who, although intelligent and diligent, is somewhat naive and sensitive, which brings her some self-esteem issues. She enjoys living on Earth and tries to adapt to school. Jesse is optimistic, free-spirited, and compassionate, much like Terry. She enjoys talking to people and finding the positive attributes of life on Earth. She's become something of a legend in the Wall of Shrunken Humans, revered like a saint for her periodic habit of tossing candy and other items into its midst. Her small gestures of generosity may seem trivial, but they mean everything to the people of the Wall, who rely on her as their main source of supplies. Yumyulack is also very intelligent, although not very diligent. He has a knack for outer limits pranks and torturing people. For example, he hacked into his school's Mac computers to install his own AI program as a prank, put some unsuspecting folks in pods, shrunk his classmate down to size just so he could pour Diet Coke on her brain, and even gave her a lobotomy, all because she and Jesse teased him. Yeah, talk about taking things to the extreme. He doesn't understand how human logic and rules work, so what he does is shrink humans to raise them in a more natural habitat to study the human condition. After his pseudo-parents advise him not to torture fellow classmates, he complies but obeys and starts testing with adults only. How thoughtful of him. The Wall. If you ever watched Rick and Morty, you may be thinking about Solar Opposites as just a cheap knockoff of that show. Sure, at first glance it might seem like a carbon copy, with its similar animation style and witty humor, but let me tell you that this show is so much more than just a copycat. Solar Opposites has proven itself to be a unique and entertaining series in its own right, with its own brand of outlandish sci-fi concepts and hilarious side plots. In fact, it's a common convention in television for a story to develop across multiple side plots. And in Solar Opposites, we get not one, not two, but three different plot threads to follow. The first plot thread, let's call it A, follows the adventures of Korvo and Terry as they explore the wacky world of Earth. Just when things start to get interesting, we switch over to the second plot thread, B, which focuses on the misadventures of Jesse and Yumyulack. These two alien siblings always seem to find themselves in the middle of some crazy scheme or another, and it's always a blast to see what kind of trouble they'll get into next. But wait, there's more. Hidden deep within the DNA of Solar Opposites is a secret third plot thread, which we'll call C. This is the story of the Wall. Sure, the wacky alien escapades of Korvo, Terry, Jesse, and Yumyulack are the main draw of Solar Opposites. But let's be real. The real star of the show is the show within a show that started off as a throwaway bit at the end of the second episode. Its story actually starts from the perspective of Plot B. At first, it goes unnoticed because watching Yumyulack shrink humans isn't really something that catches your attention. In fact, it's barely introduced at the end of episode 1 in the first season, for only about 15 seconds. The story of the Wall stands on its own when we are introduced to a shrunken human named Tim, who discovers a whole society of humans inside the Wall that Yumyulack had previously shrunk. They are engaged in a post-apocalyptic battle for survival. Many would agree that after episode 7 of the first season, the story of the Wall takes a significant twist and becomes the main plot, ironically pushing the main characters, Korvo, Terry, and the replicants, to the background. This particular episode is a masterful blend of two genres. It delivers just the right amount of comedy without going over the top, and it also packs a punch with its gut-wrenching drama of a man and his loyal rat. Meanwhile, a rebellion is unfolding in a Lord of the Rings style, making the Wall plotline the clear standout and the best part of the entire series. The plotline of the Wall delves into the complex political and organizational structure that has developed within its confines. One of their biggest challenges stems from the fact that Yumyulack is a terrible caretaker and has left them to fend for themselves. Surprisingly, the drama and suspense of the Wall often outshone the events happening in the outside world, leading to episodes that focused almost entirely on the internal struggles of the shrunken human society. Korvo's adventures with his pseudo-family have been absolutely hilarious, yet the tone of the tales within the Wall's realm was predominantly serious. These narratives unfolded like a political drama, rife with all the complexities and unexpected developments that typically come with such stories. At one point, a full-blown insurrection against the Wall's ruling hierarchy erupted, and the intrigue escalated as the machinations of other factions were revealed. So are you ready to dive into an animated series that's not to be overshadowed by its more famous counterpart? Solar Opposites is just that. It's a show that manages to deliver the same type of intelligent humor as Rick and Morty, with simple yet well-written plots and current themes disguised as sci-fi stories. With 3 seasons already out, this show is not to be missed. So what are you waiting for? Let's get started with the first season. The season, which comprises 8 episodes, was released on May 8th, 2020. In the first episode, we see a classic interdimensional TV episode of Rick and Morty. Korvo and Terry bring to life Funbucket, a curious and friendly TV character, but he ultimately betrays them. Funbucket merges with his poorly made counterpart and destroys half the city. Meanwhile, replicants Yumyulack and Jesse kidnap a classmate, shrink her, and pour Coca-Cola into her brain. Korvo and Terry use nanobots to find out their neighbors' weaknesses, preferences, and needs in an effort to get them to like the aliens. Pupa clones a football player's leg just so he can kick a vending machine. Jesse uses mind control microchips to force certain individuals to be kind to Yumyulack, convincing him that humans aren't so bad after all. And remember the miniature human farm on the wall? In this episode, we see that the shrunken humans have developed their own society, fighting for supplies, forming groups, and protecting resources, all in a Mad Max-style manner. Fed up with his family never spending time with him, Korvo decides to become a magician so that people will pay attention to him. With the combination of his science know-how and sleight of hand, he becomes the greatest magician there ever was. This, however, isn't enough even with his family applauding his act. Within the wall, Tim welcomes newcomer Cherie, a Benihana chef that was shrunk by Yumyulack for serving him shrimp. Together, they help a young man in obtaining insulin for his diabetic father. In the next episode, because of a stress overload due to Terry's idiotic behavior, Korvo produces a red, murderous goblin who seeks to kill him. Meanwhile, Jesse and Yumyulack started growing flowers that release euphoria-inducing pollen similar to drugs on their heads, so they try to fit in with the popular kids at school. We've all been there before. Everything spirals out of control when the pollen from both aliens mixes, causing a sort of zombie outbreak. Korvo saves the day with an antidote, as well as weapons that kill, but also don't kill. Pupa goes on an incredible journey, gets auctioned off, frees some Disney animals, and returns home only to be accidentally captured and sent to Kenya once again. Jesse and Yumyulack attend what they believe to be a summer school, but it is empty. Believing it to be a test, they begin teaching each other. On the other hand, Korvo and Terry enroll in an adult school, where the show portrays the difficulty, but not impossibility of attending school as an adult, when all they really want is to relax. Korvo becomes angry with Terry for wanting to party and act like a college student instead of studying, so Terry uses a dumb ray to make him act foolish like himself. Inside the wall, Tim and Cherie lead a rebellion to liberate the Duke of his food supply, but suffer an unexpected betrayal. In the next episode, the theme of gender roles takes center stage. Korvo creates a femme-bot with the role of a wife who hates game rooms, while Jessie is challenged to break a glass ceiling and prove that she has fought against patriarchy. Now the plot is simple. Terry and Korvo steal a bear. That's all. The episode is focused entirely on the people of the wall, so let's get down to it. Last time on the show, things were looking bleak for our beloved Tim. He was still locked up and being tortured under the cruel Duke's orders, all because of his failed attempt at liberation. But wait, who's this? Cherie to the rescue. She helps Tim and his cellmate Jean-Pierre break out of their cell. With the support of Cherie, the new rebellion, and his French comrade Jean-Pierre, Tim manages to inspire hundreds of wallgoers with letters and a renewed sense of hope for a better society. But hold on to your hats, folks, because their victory may come at a cost. Pupa has turned orange and Terry and Korvo are freaking out over what it means. Lucky for them, Korvo has a Pupa info card in his wallet. Except that wallet is on the planet Schlorp. In order to retrieve it, they have to use the Retrace Your Stepalizer, but little do they know, it's about to cause a space-time ripple effect. Meanwhile, Yumyulack discovers that Jesse has a fancier version of himself, named Fumulack, in the Pretendo deck. Feeling inspired, Yumyulack tries to better himself. Thus concludes the first season, leaving us excited for what's to come in the next one. The second season was released on March 26th, 2021. Just like the first one, it consists of 8 episodes and an additional Christmas-themed episode. The season kicks off with the family's spaceship crashing, all thanks to Terry stashing some items on board. They then stumble upon distress signals from their fellow Schlorpians in London, prompting Korvo to investigate. Upon arrival, he discovers a class divide between rich and poor Schlorpians and is forced to remember the secret number. Things take a wild turn when the British Schlorpians come to America to retrieve their pupa, resulting in an epic battle. But Korvo pulls a fast one on them by giving them a dog, and Pupa ends up killing RoboCop in the bedroom. Yumyulack shrinks a human named Declan and drops him inside. There he meets Mia and learns about the people of the wall's first annual Cherie Day. Korvo and Yumyulack ban dinner parties, but hybrid hellhounds track down Terry. Korvo and Terry patch things up, and dinner parties become legal again. In the wall, Declan is found dead, and it's clear humans are not alone. Korvo tries to change Terry by sending a letter to him as a child, but it backfires. Yumyulack is bullied by cool kids but gains big dick energy, leading to a confrontation with Idris Elba. Sigourney Weaver saves the day. Korvo sends too many letters, causing Terry to chase him with a knife. But Korvo fixes the timeline and prepares to watch Fast and Furious movies with Terry. One day, Korvo and Terry try to get rid of Jesse and Yumyulack during summer break and send them to camp, but they get lost in the woods without navigation equipment. After 2 months, Korvo creates a wooden city using a vial. The Red Goobler returns with a barcode scanner and invites Korvo and Terry to his wedding with Jen. Terry accidentally zaps Jen with the rat ray, and Korvo ends up sleeping with Goobler and decides to run away and get married. Yumyulack and Jesse cheat in a race, win, and are recruited to compete in the Olympics by the FBI. The family learns something new using Jesse's lesson-learning device, and Jen, still a rat, finds happiness in the sewers with Dennis. Korvo and his crew find themselves in hot water when they're arrested by a vengeful pig named Peter, who they had previously used as a slave to win rib contests. As punishment, they're sentenced to wear gloves filled with bullet ants. However, it's later revealed that Yumyulack's teacher orchestrated the whole scheme against them. The group ends up getting shivved in prison and have to call upon Pupa for assistance. Meanwhile, inside the wall, Hulk discovers the truth about Cherie's death, but decides to keep it to himself. To add to the mystery, someone wearing a Cherie mask is spotted lurking among the crowd during the celebration. In the 7th episode, the story focuses on Cherie and Duke's survival after being dumped outside the wall. Cherie is pregnant with Tim's baby, and Duke sacrifices himself to save her from a possum. Cherie gives birth inside a Pez dispenser and is helped by Pupa to blend with the crowd during Cherie Day. After confronting Hulk about the truth, Cherie decides to change their fortunes inside the wall forever. In the season finale, the group discovers that they only have one life and are not fulfilling their purpose, prompting them to try and rack up points to fill their fulfillment meters before it's too late. After several failed attempts, Terry winds up fulfilling his purpose, but is killed by the others out of jealousy. The remaining aliens plot against each other, resulting in the death of Yumyulack and Korvo. As time runs out, the group prepares for their impending death, only to discover that it turns them into trees. In the end, their frustrations towards their neighbor Keith accidentally fulfill their purpose. The episode concludes with Korvo receiving a message from Hulu confirming a holiday special. Solar Opposites Holiday Special takes the Schlorpians on a trip to the Jingle All the Way verse, where they become the workaholic father, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. However, they quickly realize that the movie is terrible, and they struggle to get into the holiday spirit. The episode takes a dark turn with post-apocalyptic wastelands and suicide attempts before the family finds their cheer in a violent way. Even the pupa learns a holiday lesson, sort of. The episode is filled with humor and silliness. And with that, Season 2 concludes. Ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived at the last season so far of the show. It premiered on July 13th, 2022, and is made up of 11 episodes. As with the previous seasons, this one is also divided into 2 parts, one focusing on the Solars family and the other on the wall. In the first episode, we see Korvo melting down because the rest of his team refuses to follow his orders and help him fix the ship. Later, fed up with the chaos, Korvo decides to take it easy and find a new hobby. He ends up becoming a model train enthusiast and takes it to the next level by controlling the train himself. In the Pupa's Big Day episode, the group discovers themselves having an extraordinary and crucial day. Or so they thought. In reality, they spend the majority of their time standing in line, waiting for something to happen. Not exactly the thrilling adventure we're used to seeing from this crew, but hey, sometimes even aliens have to deal with mundane tasks. The Solar Opposites plan a vacation to Hululand, but the focus shifts to the wall as Tim wakes up from a coma and realizes Cherie is alive. They try to escape and free the others, but the aliens have criminal immunity. Tim and Cherie return to ambush them, free the captives, and trap the Solar Opposites in the wall. However, it is revealed to be Tim's dying dream, leaving Cherie frustrated. The Solar Opposites return from vacation. Yumyulack's new girlfriend Annie only bet on him to win best couple at school. Terry and Korvo receive a Crystal Skull vodka brand bullet signed by Mark Hamill from an eBay auction. During a photo shoot, Terry accidentally shoots the bullet into space, but tries to keep track of it as it falls back to Earth, while Korvo prevents him from getting distracted by knocking over a kid in a wheelchair. Celebrating getting their bullet back, Terry and Korvo start an OnlyFans, by sharing pictures of Terry's newly trimmed feet. In the wall, Cherie is faced with the decision of how to handle news of Tim's death, and after revealing the hole in the wall, she suggests a transparent, elected government. In the end, Cherie is elected as Level 12's representative. The power goes out in the wall, and Glenn is shot into space by Terry and Korvo. Glenn is freed from an alien jail and joins the Silver Cops. They use him as bait to corner Chromus, a gold cop in disguise, and kill him while intending to frame Glenn for the murder. Glenn escapes from the silver suit and runs away naked, pursued by the cops. The episode ends with Glenn being left to die in a galactic forest as the atmosphere becomes deadly at dawn. In the season finale of The Wall, Hulk and Cherie face a mosquito attack while in Yumyulack's miniature set. They encounter Steven, who seeks revenge on the mosquitoes. Together, they release spiders to fight the mosquito army, but Hulk tragically falls to his death. Cherie later finds her baby at the Bowenian church, but is branded on the forehead by a new nun. When the guards arrive, she is dragged away without anyone to vouch for her. Meanwhile, in the season finale, the family assumes the pupa is going through a teenage rebellion and punishes him instead of listening to his concerns. This leads to the pupa giving birth to a small friend called Little Buddy, who resembles the statue of David. The pupa then transforms into a steamy fog that overtakes the town, resembling a dark version of the Mist. Terry and Korvo are hiding in a supermarket when they run into Principal Cook and Mrs. Frankie from Jesse and Yumyulack's school. The school officials accuse Terry and Korvo of being a bad influence on Pupa and suggest that he needs more structure and better role models in his life. At first, Terry and Korvo ignore the advice, but they eventually realize that they need to change their ways, leading to a more normal life for the pupa. The season ends with a montage of Terry and Korvo as office workers, set to Once in a Lifetime by Talking Heads. They look at photos of the pupa on their desks while tackling stacks of paperwork and come home to a more traditional family environment. Meanwhile, Yumyulack and Jesse are forced to be normal teen students. Thanks for watching today's video on Solar Opposites. What do you think of the show so far? Are you excited for the upcoming 4th season? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more updates and recaps of your favorite TV shows. See you next time.